Once the value scales on the front side are done, what tends to work better is if you separate the two pages. So I'm going to rip them apart from one another, put this one off to the side, and then we're going to take a look at drawing and shading the basic forms. We're going to do the cube together first. So here's the tricky part. With the cube, you've got vertical lines, you've got diagonal lines, and you want to have those as straight as possible. But since we're not using a ruler, I'm going to have to teach you how to actually work through this without it. So using my pencil, and every line that I make on mine is going to look a little darker, but on yours, as you're illustrating, I want you to draw everything as lightly as you can until you start to add your shading. Then you can darken some things up here and there. So to begin, I've got 3 verticals, and the vertical of an object is always going to be, at least to me, the easier place to begin. Now, to illustrate a vertical line and to keep it as vertical as you can without using a ruler, I'm going to start kind of ghost outlining this edge, and then very, very lightly, I'm creating a kind of an overlapped sketch line from the vertical all the way down to the bottom edge of the paper. Now remember, keep your lines very, very light. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the left edge. All the way down, all the way down. And then same thing on the right. Okay, once you've got the 3 of those, before we do anything else, I want you to set your thumb way down at the bottom edge of the paper, and then put a dot on this side of the thumb, and I want you to erase any portion of that vertical line that extends down past the dot. This dot is going to represent the bottom point, or that bottom cornered edge for this cube. Okay, so we've got our 3 verticals, but we need to be sure that we kept all 3 of these at the same width, or at least the distance between the verticals at that same width. So to do that, I'm going to take edge of my pencil, and mine's got an eraser on the back side of it, which is fine. You can use any pencil, whether it's got an eraser or if it doesn't have an eraser. But I'm going to set this right here, and when I do this, I'm going to kind of set a fingernail along that vertical edge, and I'm going to bump my eraser up against it so that that eraser is lined up with the vertical edge on the left. Now, with these 2 fingers, I'm going to pinch the body of the pencil, and I'm going to slide these 2 fingers in, and I'm going to stop once I hit where that center vertical line is. So when I pinch this, what I have now is the accurate width from the left vertical to the center vertical. So keeping that measurement pinched between my fingers, now I can take and slide this all the way down. Ooh, now I can see that as I get closer towards the bottom here, that my line dips inward a little bit. So I'm going to keep going, keep going, keep going. Yep, so I need to take and correct this line, erase the part that dips inward, double check. Ooh, I need to go up even further, yikes. Okay, so from here down, I'm going to draw a little bit, and then check, good, good, draw a little bit more, check it again, dips in a little bit there. All right, there we go. Now I think that's going to work. So now I'm going to do the same thing on the right side. Fingertip, bump the eraser against the fingertip, pinch right at this right side, and then slide it down, dun, 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 dun. Okay, so it looks like the spacing on my right side was accurate, but I did have to fix the spacing on the left side. Okay, here comes the, some would say, tricky part. We're gonna start by looking at the angles of the two bottom diagonals. And if you look at these, at just first glance, for some people, it may look like the angles are exactly the same, but if you really look at it, they're gonna be off by just a little bit. So here's the easiest way for me to figure out what the proper angle is without having to use something like a protractor. I'm gonna lay the edge of my pencil, and since I know where the bottom point of that cube is gonna be, because I've got this bottom dot right here, I know where I need to line this up. So I'm going to line the body of the pencil up with the angle of that base left diagonal. So I'm going to line this up, and then using just one hand, because it seems like one hand works a little better, I'm going to hold this angle. I'm going to hold the pencil at this angle. I'm going to slide this pencil down gradually until I hit that bottom corner. I'm going to set a fingernail here, and I'm going to put a little dot. Then, before I connect this, I want to double check this angle, or what will be this angle, with the bottom left. So I'm going to lay pencil down at the bottom, capture that angle, and then very slowly slide this up until it touches, and it looks like I managed to keep that angle pretty accurate. So now, very lightly, again, we're not using any rulers. I'll connect to the left, and then I'm going to erase this leftover bottom portion of the vertical that extends down past this diagonal. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing over on the right. So I'm going to lay my pencil, capture that angle, slide this, oop, it's bent, oh boy. Bent just a little bit there, so I'm going to try that again. There we go. Down, 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 down until it hits. Set a fingernail, put a dot, and then check it again. Capture the angle, slide up, 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 up. Good. When it looks good, again, go ahead and connect. Now remember, my lines are all going to be a little bit darker because I need them to be visible on the video, but I want you right there, you, no, not you, and you, hey, the two of you. I want you to keep your lines very, very, very light. So again, I can take and erase anything that extends out past that bottom diagonal, and now I have boom, 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 the bottom three corner points. So now I've got those bottom points. What I want to try to do next is figure out the length of the three verticals that I have. Once I get the length of the three verticals, then I'm able to complete this kind of diamond shape at the very top. So to capture the length, just like we did when we were measuring from the left to the middle or from the middle to the right, we're going to use that same exact method. I'm going to make it easier on myself by rotating my paper. I'm going to put a little dot right here, and you can, the dots that I've placed on my image, you're more than welcome to add those same exact dots if it helps you through the illustration. So where that dot is, I'm going to set my fingernail, bump the eraser against the fingernail, and then I'm going to slide my fingers up and pinch right at that bottom point. So I'm going to double check that pinch. Ooh, I'm a little off. There we go. Okay, slide it down here, line it up, put a fingernail, add my dot. Now again, we're going to double check. Fingernail here, bump the eraser, pinch at that bottom dot, double check it, and it looks good. So, because it does, now I can take and erase any leftover part of that vertical that extends upward from that point. All right, Do the same thing left, same thing right. Fingernail, I'm going to put a little point here so that I can see it better. Fingernail, slide this up, pinch at the bottom, slide that down, line it up, fingernail, put a dot, double check it, fingernail, bump the eraser, pinch at that point, come up, double check. Yep, that looks pretty good. So now, and sometimes you just get lucky and you get it on the first try. Okay, now for the right side. One final time. I'm gonna put my little dot so I can, got a little more of a visual indicator. Now bump the eraser, come up and pinch. Double check, slide it down. Fingernail, put a dot, double check it. Pinch, good. All right, now get rid of any part of that vertical line that sticks up. Okay, the next thing, the final 4 diagonals, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Now, 2 of those 4 are already set up for us. We know exactly what angle they should be at because we have the top points of these 3 verticals. So I know this one here because I've got my point here, my point here. So very lightly, just like I did at the bottom, I'll take and connect. And then same thing over here on the right side. And again, they're not gonna be at the same angle. One should be a little, I guess, higher in pitch than the other. The other one's gonna lay a little flatter. So the left one is angled up a little bit higher, the right one lays just a little bit flatter. Okay, now, this is where some people get a little hung up on the detail portion. All right, I wanna get my final 2 angles. So the first one that I'm gonna look at is gonna be this back left. I'm gonna put a little dot right here where that back corner would be. That way I can see kind of the edge of that line a little more properly. Now, when I slide this down, ooh, I gotta hold that real carefully. Okay, now I'm gonna slide this down until it hits this back left corner. Boom. Now, since I don't know where these 2 diagonals are going to come together, what I'm going to do is just to the right of this right side vertical, I'm going to set my fingernail, I'm going to put a dot, very light dot. Now I'm going to line that up one more time, hold that angle, I'm going to slide this up until it hits. Good. Now, very carefully, very, very lightly, I'm going to draw this backing diagonal longer than what I know it needs to be. That way, once I capture the back right, I'll know where that intersection should lie, where those 2 diagonals should come together. So I'll set here, capture that angle, hold on tight, slide down, 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 down. Put my fingernail here, put a little dot, double check this, up, 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 up. All right, that looks pretty good. Now lightly connect, and then I'll erase anything that sticks out past. Okay, so even though I've got the skeletal layout, I'm gonna double check just so that I can be absolutely sure. I'm gonna double check everything again. I'm gonna lighten up some of these lines. Let's see if I can do a little freehand correcting on them first. Straighten the verticals a little bit. And I know doing straight lines freehand is not easy for anybody, myself included. but we got to try. Okay, I can touch some of this up because that line's a little thick. Same thing down here. Okay. Now, I'm quite certain on the vertical lengths from bottom to top, so I'm not necessarily going to check those, but I am going to double check my angles, because the angles are always the parts that I get thrown off with a little bit more. Okay, down, 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 down. All right, pretty good on the bottom. I'm going to try this top. Down, 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 down. Pretty good, but it looks like this line almost bends downward to the left as it's moving up. I don't want to have anything like that. So I'm going to erase. Just try to re-straighten that line. Good. There. I think that looks a little bit better. Okay, now I'm going to check these two. Capture and check. Good. Capture and check. Good. Although I'm a little thick in this front corner, so I'm going to thin some of that mess out. Maybe re-correct these just incrementally. Good. Now, the back two. One final check. Good. Capture and slide down. Good. Capture and slide down. Good. Okay. Next, before I do any shading to this, I have two last things to figure out here. Thing number one is going to be the angle to our cast shadow. So this kind of squared off shape, I want to catch the angles to all of that. And then I'm also going to lay out this backing horizon line. So the first that I'm going to do are going to be the angles coming off for this cast shadow. I'm going to do it the same way that I did to all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of those. In fact, I'm going to make it a little easier. I'm going to put points where those 4 corners would go. And capture that angle. Hold that tight. Come down, down, down. I'm going to stop when I hit the bottom corner point. And then fortunately for me, if we can still see where that right side vertical line edge was, that's actually where we're going to put that point. So that point will come straight down. And if you need to re-illustrate that, a little bit of that line, that's fine. Just do so very, very lightly. That way it's easy to go back and erase before we shade anything. And then I'm going to do the same over here. This one's going to go a little bit long because I don't know where that point is going to rest. So I'm going to capture the angle. Down, 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 down. I'm going to go further out than I know I'm going to need. Put a little point. Double check that again. Good. Okay, I can get rid of this. Get rid of that. Very lightly, and again, mine are going to be a little bit darker. Yours should be nice and light. I'm going to connect here. I'm going to connect there. And then what's probably going to be easier for me is, instead of finding this angle right here to go from here to that line, all I'm going to do is find the distance between this point and this point. So fingernail, bump the eraser against it, pinch where that dot is, bring this down, fingernail, double check it. Pinch where that dot is, line it up. Good. Okay, nice and light. I will connect. Erase the last little bit of leftover. And then the skeletal structure for the cube and the cast shadow are done. Last thing, that horizon line. So I'm going to come and where that line intersects with the left vertical, I'm going to put a little dot. Where that line intersects with the right vertical, I'm going to put a little dot. And then just simply get my measurements on this. I can pinch here, come down to that dot, put my fingernail here, put a dot there, and then do the same thing on the right. Pinch, come down. There we go. A little dot. That horizon line all the way out. Now comes the kind of focus part on this. Now we're going to shade it. But because we are attempting to recreate and to shade forms so that they look realistic, the first thing that you always want to do before you shade any kind of object is to ghost erase your lines. When I do this, I use just the eraser that's on the back side of my pencil or a little handheld eraser, whatever works better for you. If you want to use a mechanical kind of eraser, that's fine as well. But when you ghost erase, all you're doing, you're not getting rid of the whole line, but you're erasing just enough of it so that that overall outline is much more faint. It should still be visible, but it should not be quite as dark as it was during the layout process. Now, the reason that you want to ghost erase is because lines in these kinds of objects aren't really, especially the vertical and the diagonals, those lines really aren't there. In our image, yes, we can see that lines are somewhat appearing, but the reason that they appear is because of the shading that you have and the contrast that you build. Remember this? The contrast, the difference between the light and dark values in a composition making objects stand out. We've got dark, dark, dark values here. We've got medium to medium light. We've got very light with a little bit of medium light. We've got dark again. We've got dark again to kind of medium and then to a medium light. So it's the change in value that's actually going to give us that realistic view of this object. So I'm going to finish ghost erasing everything here. I'm going to really try to get rid of some of these kind of heavier dots that I made. Because again, dark outlines, heavy dots, things like that are going to make this appear like it's somewhat cartoonish. So I've got my outline in, I've got it ghost erased. Now the next step is shading. I'm going to switch over to a time-lapse view. That way you can kind of shade at your own speed, pause, rewind, do whatever. But before you shade anything on this, from this outline, the first thing I want you to do is take a photo of the outline. And in the photo, I just need this. Just this portion of what you've got. That way I can look at the outline that you've got, kind of compare it to the original and see if there's anything that should be corrected or that there's anything that I might be able to kind of guide you on just a little bit more before we do this cylinder. So before you shade, ghost erase, take a photo of just this, email me the photo, and then as soon as you've emailed me the photo, if you feel pretty confident, you are more than welcome to begin shading what you see up here.